Harry's Wife, Part 101.73, Her Biggest Mistake. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor, continuing to explain the various behaviours surrounding Harry's wife in order to help you understand the way that the narcissist functions. I've repeatedly explained that as a mid-range narcissist, Harry's wife is governed by her narcissism, causing her to act in the moment. Sometimes that might have a future impact. For instance, she may think, I need to get myself a boyfriend, and I'm going out on a date with him. In that moment, she makes a decision to wear a particular perfume, i.e. the one worn by Diana, Princess of Wales, but will do so later that evening. The decision is made at this point. She actions it shortly thereafter. That, although it gives the appearance of planning, is actually about governing in the moment, because her narcissism makes a decision now about a future event. In the way that future faking is using the future to assert control in the moment, a mid-range narcissist can similarly make a decision in the moment which will have a future repercussion. For instance, she may decide that in order to assert control in the now, she will talk about leaving and put in place steps to effect that. Again, although that has the appearance of future planning, it is about the assertion of control in the moment when that decision is being made, which then has a future repercussion. Most of the time, Harry's wife, her narcissism causes her to make a decision in the now, which has a collateral consequence, an unintended consequence that follows thereafter, and which leads into her being seen to tell a lie, for example, or to offend somebody, or to contradict herself. But of course, she doesn't care, because when her narcissism gets to that future point, it deals with the contradiction by denying it, ignoring it, explaining it in some alternative way. It's important for people to understand that whilst there are those that think that she sits down and plots and plans everything, she does not, and the repeated errors and gaffes and mistakes that she has made demonstrate that to be the case. If her narcissism was of a different type, she wouldn't be making these mistakes. The fact that she does cements her mid-range status. One of those huge mistakes she's made, of course, is failing to harness the very organisation that she married into. As I've explained, there are other narcissists who have done so, their narcissism recognising the advantages of the platform that she married into, or that they have joined, or were a part of, whether it's through birth or marriage. The institution of the royal family is a huge platform that allows the assertion of control, the drawing of fuel. It allows huge character traits to be obtained and, of course, massive residual benefits. And whilst, of course, there'll be incidents here and there, or fallouts and strops and so on and so forth, the narcissist invariably embraces and utilises the institution because it's so useful for the prime aims. Harry's wife's narcissism didn't do that. It fought against it, with the consequence that she was forced to retreat to Canada and then California, and thereafter spend most of her time throwing brickbats at the institution from afar. This has been a huge error on her part. Whilst there'll be those that will still think, well, she wanted her freedom, she's got it, good for her, the fact is, she's a nobody without the status of royalty. She is the Duchess of Industrial Beige. Yes, she had a career in acting and was moderately successful at doing that. But her joining the royal family propelled her into the stratosphere, both in terms of fame and access to money, networks, and the facade management that her narcissism craves so much. However, it messed up. And, as part of her purported feminism, she could, or if her narcissism had chosen, to utilise the royal family as a platform to advance that. Now, the fact is that this error that she made by retreating as a part of an assertion of control by withdrawal from the royal family, from that royal family, demonstrates a mistake has been made, and it is also shown by contrast with the other female members of the royal family how they are utilising it. It also demonstrates how they deliver and she does not. And this has been noticed also by Daniela Elsa, with an article that appears in the NZ Herald. The title reads, Daniela Elsa, Harry's wife's biggest mistake comes into focus. And this will help you understand not only the nature of that mistake, but show you the contrast between her behaviours and the other individuals who are not narcissists in the royal family amongst the women, and also demonstrate to you the way that her narcissism has functioned and got the prize, but then didn't hold on to it properly. The article states as follows. There is a 3-book series with attached compendium to be written about the royal family's biggest mistakes. There was Edward VIII buggering off to marry Wallis Simpson, a woman who seemed to live off whiskey and resentment. There was Princess Margaret being forced to give up group captain Peter Townsend, and never quite finding real happiness again, despite looking in a whiskey bottle every day. And there was Lord Mountbatten and Prince Philip pressuring a decidedly unconvinced Prince Charles to pop the question to Lady Diana Spencer, at which point, I'm guessing, he reached for the hard stuff too. But in the last 2 weeks, since the death of the Queen, another royal mistake has come into sharp relief. This might sound a tad crazy, but stick with me here. It has become clear, since Her Majesty's passing, that the British monarchy, an institution founded entirely on white male privilege, is on the cusp of becoming a feminist powerhouse. And for Harry's wife, the Duchess of Sussex upping sticks and leaving might just have been a huge miscalculation, leaving her out in the cold, as Team Windsor takes the lead on gender equality. Are you choking on your tea? I'll wait. Consider what we have just seen play out in London. When the Queen's children mounted a vigil surrounding her coffin, in Edinburgh and then in London, it was the first time in history female heirs had not been barred from taking part, slotting the redoubtable Princess Anne into the history books. Again, in 2002 for the Queen Mother's funeral, only her grandsons mounted vigil, and in 1935 it was only George V's sons who were involved. Likewise, the fact that Anne chose to wear her military uniform both for her grandmother's farewell, making her the first royal woman to do so since Elizabeth I in 1588, but her mother's as well, and with trousers rather than a skirt to boot, the Queen always wore skirts when she donned her military uniform. More history got made when Zara Tindall, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, and Lady Louise Windsor became the first granddaughters of the sovereign to ever mount a vigil too. More significantly, the UK and the Commonwealth now has a Queen Consort, whose key focus since marrying the then Prince of Wales in 2005 has been tackling domestic violence and rape. Not only has Camilla tirelessly drawn attention to the issues, but has done things like have her small staff help make up hundreds of wash bags for sexual assault victims to help them feel more human, as she has put it, after having to undergo forensic examinations. My observation there certainly beats writing in a Sharpie on a banana, doesn't it? Returning to the article. Last year, she became the patron of Nigeria's first sexual assault crisis centre. The Queen Consort has said that she got started after meeting a domestic violence survivor, telling Vogue earlier this year, "I'd just like to do anything to help." After it was announced in February this year that she would become Queen Consort, ultimately Camilla said during a BBC interview that the elevated title would help with her causes, and that she had no intention of giving it up, saying, "I hope I should be doing it for a lifetime." Sophie, Countess of Wessex, now focuses her work on sexual violence in war zones, having travelled to Kosovo, Sierra Leone and South Sudan to meet with and support victims. I dare say there she didn't take a huge wardrobe of clothes and use it for a personal photo shoot. If I can prod the consciences of those who may be able to do more to try and prevent it, and can help get justice for survivors, I will do everything I can, the Countess told the Times' legendary war journalist Christina Lamb in 2020. Last, but not least, Kate, Princess of Wales, might register lower on the Germaine Greer scale, but she has become a true force in her own right, and is the first female HRH to set up her own solo foundation, with a focus on reducing addiction and homelessness for future generations, along with her ongoing work on maternal mental health. Which is to say, we're a hell of a long way from when Queen Elizabeth reportedly urged Diana, Princess of Wales, to focus on nice charities. Moreover, in the coming months and years, there is every chance we are going to see Camilla, Kate and Sophie becoming louder and more forceful voices on these issues as the focus shifts to the new generation. Accordingly, you have there various members of the royal family flexing their status with regard to various charitable causes, and ones, of course, which assist women. So what of Harry's wife, on the other side of the Atlantic, who has been a sensationally and impressively outspoken advocate for gender equality, who used her first major outing in 2018 as a future royal to declare, "Women don't need to find their voice. They have a voice. They need to be encouraged to use it." Facade management. The same woman, that is, who gave a now famous speech at a UN Women's Conference years before her marriage in June 2020, appeared in a video with Gloria Steinem to discuss how women should be linked, not ranked. Well, you see, very sadly, her work on this front is not exactly going gangbusters. Now, let me make something very clear here. The Duchess of Sussex deserves huge and ongoing praise for her unwavering commitments to fighting for gender equality. We might have had #MeToo and #TimesUp and all those pink pussy hats of 2017, but there are sexier and cooler causes out there for a wannabe political force on the make. Her steadfastness and dedication is truly inspiring. But where things hit a serious speed bump is when it comes to the discrepancy between her headline-grabbing rhetoric and her actions. And of course, my observation here is this is typical of the behaviour of the narcissist. If we can get what we want, namely the prime aims, by saying rather than doing, then that's all that will happen. If we can assert control over you by saying that we are going to marry you, that brings you under control, provides fuel, consequently as a consequence rather from your reaction. We get character traits from the relationship and residual benefits. Then why marry you? There's no need. The saying that we will, in effect the future faking, is sufficient to get to the prime aims, and as I've explained to you on many occasions, the narcissism operates in an economy setting. Therefore, it's hardly surprising that there is this discrepancy between Harry's wife's headline-grabbing rhetoric and her actions. The article continues. Harry's wife's podcast series Archetypes, currently on hold after the Queen's death, seems much more of a PR exercise, facade management, than a meaty contribution to the conversation. None of the 3 episodes released so far are currently sitting in the top 100 episodes in the United States, according to the Spotify charts. That, of course, supports the notion that there was a bit of chicanery going on in order to bring prominence to them, but people have quickly realised that there's bugger all use in them, and that the contribution to the meaningful pursuit of issues is the square root of fuck all. After the horrifying overturning of abortion protections when the Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade in June, the 41-year-old took part in a conversation with Gloria Steinem for Vogue. It was impassioned, eloquent and urgent stuff. You can see my analysis of that in parts passing. In the 3 months since then, she has yet to speak out further or follow this up with any real action. Husband Prince Harry did address the issue during his far from well-attended UN speech in July. Notice again, you have the headline, you have the pronouncements, the sitting on the sofa and capturing the character traits of Gloria Steinem, and then where's the delivery? There isn't any. During the same conversation, when the topic of ratifying the Equal Rights Amendment came up, Harry's wife said, "This is a moment," she loves saying moments, "that I am absolutely going to show up for. And, well, Gloria, maybe it seems as though you and I will be taking a trip to DC together soon." She has yet to comment or engage on this issue, or to set foot in Washington. Beyond that, her push for paid paternal leave has seen her cold call nonplussed conservative senators, talk about the issue at the New York Times Dealbuck Summit, and donate a $25 Starbucks gift card to the employees of PL Plus US, a non-profit working on the cause. No, there are not 1 or 2 zeros missing from that amount. Where Harry's wife, the feminist, falls down is not her intentions, which are excellent, but what comes next. Speaking up is great, but where is the follow-through? What has she actually done? And again, this just reinforces the nature of her narcissism. Harry's wife should be, right now, the most energising, thrilling leader to appear on the feminism front since Germaine decided to find out how flammable her bra was. She has the passion. Brains, debatable. Connections, they're wavering. And the media nous, not so sure about that, I think her advisors have that, to really do the sort of work that can move the dial. So why haven't we seen her on the front steps of the Supreme Court, loud hailer in hand, rallying women to fight against the Roe decision? Why haven't we seen her put her checkbook where her mouth is? Therein lies quite the irony, because right as Harry's wife's feminism light, diet feminism, is being found oh so wanted, the women of the royal family have been quietly staging something of a feminist takeover. Just to pause there, Daniela Elsa poses those questions, why haven't you seen Harry's wife? And it comes back to this point that I made earlier. Her narcissism dictates is unnecessary. She gets what she requires in that moment. Control over people, the receipt of fuel, character traits and residual benefits. So the narcissism says, good, that's dealt with. We don't need to follow through by actually turning up in Washington. We don't need to go to the Supreme Court. And therefore, she does not. And of course, it isn't just once this happens, it's repeatedly. How many times does she declare that something's going to be done, and then nothing happens? How many times do you get a banal speech as she bandwagons, and then nothing comes? This is her narcissism in action. And of course, you understand, as viewers of this channel, precisely why that is, whereas other people, such as Daniela Elsa, are left scratching their head as to why isn't she doing it? Well, you know. Returning to the article, while it might be two blokes, King Charles and Prince William, on whose shoulders the future of the crown technically rests, in reality, what will determine the monarchy's survival is the work done by three commoner women who chose to join the Windsor's gilded ranks. It's the work of Camilla, Sophie and Kate that will play an outsized role in transforming the image of Buckingham Palace into a much more dynamic, relevant force in British society. Here's where I think Harry's wife made such a whopping whoopsie, writes Elsa. She left the royal family right as this shift was taking place, and right now. Instead of joining her stepmother-in-law, sister-in-law and aunt-in-law in remaking the royal family's pale, male and stale image, she is off in Hollywood, recording a cringeworthy podcast and buying cheap Starbucks gift cards. That, again, underpins the nature of her mid-range narcissism, and demonstrates this is not a plotting, calculating mind at all. There is also the fact that the royal family gave Harry's wife a platform and opened doors that she can never, no matter how hard she works, try and match now. That was something that Diana understood keenly, according to her biographer Tina Brown, who said during an interview with the Daily Beast last month, she kept Kensington Palace as her base. Unlike Harry's wife and Harry, she understood having the power base of monarchy was enormously important. I know that Harry's wife has, of course, spoken about the horrifying toll royal life took on her mental health. If only someone inside the palace had listened and helped her. If only staying in did not require her suffering. If only. In the wake of the Queen's funeral and seeing Anne in her smart military trousers, head bowed, inside Westminster Hall and Her Majesty's granddaughters following suit, what is clear is that this is not their grandmother's palace. This is a palace that can and is evolving, and Harry and Harry's wife could and should be playing a starring role in this. So ends Elsa's article, which highlights for you the discrepancy between the saying and the doing, and I've explained why that is, and also brings into sharp relief the huge mistake that Harry's wife has made by turning against the institution that she could have harnessed, thus underpinning the mid-range nature of her narcissism, and brings into sharp relief the contrast between what she says and what's actually being done by the other women within the royal family. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.